Hi, everyone. Before we get started on the episode, I just wanted to give a quick apology for the sound. My audio is a little messed up on this episode, and that's because I had my settings incorrect. So sorry about that, and try to stick with us. All right, let's get started.
Oh, so did you lose every time?
I think everybody lost. I think the fun was just getting naked.
Oh, so everyone won then.
Yeah, everybody won. Except we definitely put towels down.
Welcome to Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD necessary.
We're the podcast that recaps all episodes of The Big Bang Theory. No spoilers.
So hop into your favorite spot.
Make yourself a grasshopper and enjoy the ride.
Hello there, Ryan.
Hello, Rob.
How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well today. How about yourself?
Fantastic, because we just watched the Nerdvana Annihilation.
Yes, we did.
For any new listeners out there, we are Theoretical Nonsense, the podcast that recaps, reviews, and deep dives facts from the Big Bang Theory, which we call IQ points. As a reminder to everyone, this is Ryan's first time watching The Big Bang Theory. He's had minimal spoilers, and I've seen the series several times. We also keep a tally on how similar Ryan is to Sheldon. So where are we at with that?
Right now
You're kind of leaning more towards Sheldon, I think.
Yeah, right now 1 point more being Sheldon. 16 points for Sheldon, 15 being like another character.
I just thought of this just this second, but what are we going to do at the end of the series when we find out that you are Sheldon?
Oh man, we need like a, you know how they have those gender reveal parties for babies?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, but with me.
So we're going to burn the forest down?
Yes! Am I Sheldon? Burn the forest and find out.
Well, a little bit more housekeeping. We have an Instagram account. It is at Theoretical Nonsense Pod. Feel free to email us if you want to communicate. Say hi, tell us to fuck off, whatever. Our email is at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com. And we didn't get a new review, but we did get another 5 stars. So thank you, whoever did that. We really appreciate that.
We do appreciate it. We look at those numbers and we saw it bump up one today, and it made us happy. So thank you very much.
Yeah, we appreciate that. So what did you think of this episode?
You know, another strong one. I think I liked it more than the last one. Partially I just really like the time machine. I thought that was a great device for the story, and I like the story of the time machine, so it all worked very well for me.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. This one was a really fun one. It just gives a lot more insight about the things that they value in life and how different they are from, like, I guess, I don't want to say normal people, but like there are a lot of collectors out there. I think back in 2008, it wasn't as popular as it is now, because I feel like a lot of people are just really embracing it now. Especially, like, I follow a lot of Lego things.
Yeah.
So, like, people building those figurines, but then, like, there's what they do with, like, action figures and other kind of, like, toys and things like that, which are very popular. So I found myself looking up a lot of values in this episode.
I did a little bit, not a whole lot of values, but a little bit with the values.
I really wanted to look into it because I feel like in Big Bang Theory, they show their lifestyle as a way to make fun of it.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's not really the thing. Maybe it was like that back then, but right now it's like a lot of these figurines can be worth like a ton of money. It was even a really big plot point in 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Yeah.
That's the main character had all these action figures and toys and comics and everything that he was able to sell on eBay for thousands of dollars.
Mm-hmm. I remember in the early 90s, my friends having Star Wars toys unopened, and because the movie like became so big, from when did it come out, like the 70s, like original series toys that his mom got and like gave to him when he was a baby, she just had on hand, and he just held on to them, and like the early 90s, and the value was going up through the roof. at comic book shops and stuff.
Yeah, I remember when I not that long ago when I was downsizing. It was around the time when I was trying to move
Mm-hmm.
out over here. I had all these old action figures that my mom gave me because, like, just like any good parent, they hoard all of their kids' stuff, and then
Yeah.
once they get to a certain age, they just dump it on you. So I
Mm-hmm.
got dumped on all these toys, like these Power Ranger action figures, unopened boxes of Transformers, and I
Mm.
was able to sell them for a really nice chunk of change.
They're Transformers go for a lot. I still collect figures sometimes, and they have some like master class ones. From my big thing was Beast Wars, where they turn into animals.
Oh, I loved Beast Wars.
Right?
People
I
make
thought it
fun
was
of it,
amazing.
but
Some
I
people are like, that
loved it.
wasn't real Transformers. I'm like, that was the best.
Yeah, I really like that, and I was still like a really big into like the original series and the original movie. So I didn't even
Hmm.
start off with Beast Wars, but that was great.
The time travel element. Back to time traveling for this episode.
Yeah.
It kept me intrigued throughout. Like, I think there were only 3 seasons, 3 or 4, but I loved it. But yeah, these action figures go for hundreds of dollars just for one figure, and the amount of detail they put into them is just like, wow, that looks exactly like it did on the cartoon, if not better, because the cartoon was like 90s CGI, and 90s CGI was not great to
Not
say the
great.
least.
Well,
Yeah.
you know what? At the time, it was groundbreaking. Looking back, it's not so good.
Right, yeah, at the time it was like, wow, that looks just like real life. And no, apparently it didn't.
Yeah. Oh man, this reminds me of just not that long ago. I was having dinner with a friend, and we were talking about just like old like toys and everything like that, just like this. I was getting a
Uh-huh.
little drunk, and I was telling him about all my life I wanted the hot rod action figure from Transformers movie. It was just
Uh-huh.
something I couldn't get, I couldn't find, like that. So then I almost drunkenly bought it on eBay. I was so close, but I was like, no, no,
No.
Robert, down boy, no.
But I want
But I won't say it.
it. I think mine was the tape deck for Transformers, and was it Ravage turned into a little cassette tape, and you could put the cassette tape into the player. They
It
didn't
was
actually play,
it was
but
Soundwave. Soundwave was the
Soundwave.
player. Ravage was the dog
Yes,
that turns
yeah.
into a cassette. Yeah, that was
Uh-huh.
awesome. They
That
had
was
the Autobot version too. Crap, what was his name? Wasn't Blaster, was it?
I'm stuck on Soundwave. That's the only one
Uh,
I'm really thinking. But you're right, there was a Autobot one, yeah.
God, that movie was so great. Oh, still love it.
Fantastic. Love me Transformers. Oh man.
But we're not here to talk about Transformers. We are here to talk about the Nerdvana Annihilation.
Yeah, and I was gonna say too that we get some interesting Sheldon development here. It's like some of the only times so far that he didn't just irritate me or wasn't just selfish. And I think, like you said, normal people don't collect this stuff, but uh, normal people do their own weird stuff. So there is no normal, and
I I will say that everybody has their own thing.
yeah, yeah, and I like.
Everybody collects something,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's like a physical thing or a digital thing, but everybody has a thing.
Everybody has a
So,
thing, if you
and
want to
this
believe
just
it or
happens
not.
to be, and their thing just happens to be popular amongst children.
Mm-hmm. As rich people collect cars or antique watches, or I don't know, clothing, bottles of wine. People collect wine, right? Beer,
Yeah.
so anything. So, anyways, starting Nerdvana Annihilation. This aired on April 28th of 2008, and that date comes back up later in the episode. Well, not 2008, but April 28th, right?
Yep. I
The
noticed that too.
I'm like, that's probably important. And I made a note. I'm like, it was important. Um, Director Mark Sandrowski, writers Chuck Lorre, Bill Prady, and Stephen Ingle for the teleplay of this. And it begins in the apartment, Sheldon complaining about his sandwich, that it was not made in the proper order. And I thought about this, and I can't give a point either way because part of me prefers certain orders when I'm making the sandwich. Like I like to have toppings on one side and then having a barrier. But if it's not like it, I don't get mad and I don't request it to be made in a certain way. It's just if I'm making it, I try to have like a piece of lettuce up against the toppings so that they don't go down onto the cheese or the patty and directly influence the temperature.
I noticed that he didn't talk about condiments. So I usually only, for me, the value of building a sandwich in a specific way really only depends on the condiments.
Mm-hmm. And like if you're using a lot of mayo or something, I feel like that should probably play into it a little
But
bit.
then again, if it's fresh, I don't really care. Like if
Eh.
they're making it like within like an hour of eating, I don't really care.
Ah,
But
yeah.
if it's like something that needs to be like made the day before, like we used to make, like I used to make or have my sandwich made by my dad or by myself in elementary school, we would do it the day before. So then we would have, I guess within a day, we used to put mayo on the bread and it didn't really matter that much. But I did notice it was a lot soggier.
I was gonna say with peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, that jelly will sog
Soak
up the bread.
through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll soak through.
So what you need is peanut butter on both sides.
Yeah, peanut butter boundaries with a jelly center, like a donut.
Ooh. Look
What
at that.
else was I gonna say about this? That oh, I heard and I haven't looked this up or to know which year it was, but I want to say it was like the 70s, maybe early 80s, that McDonald's at one time did BLTs.
They did?
Yeah, and I heard that they would put like the hot part of the sandwich, the bacon and bread, and one part, and then the cold part, the lettuce and tomato, and another thing, and you open them both up, styrofoam things, and you would put them together at your own pace so that it didn't screw up the temperature. And their advertising campaign was like when hot met cold, like Romeo and Juliet or something, big pairings. In fact, that's probably why I remember is when I read Romeo and Juliet, my teacher told me about that. So
This is how you kids are going to learn. You like the BLTs?
I'm pretty sure he also showed us the movie version of Romeo and Juliet.
The Leonardo DiCaprio one?
No, the one before that. It was even older.
Nothing exists before that one.
That's when the world started.
Yeah.
He's like, so I have to warn you, there's some boobs in this movie, and it's
How
like
old were you?
Ninth grade.
Okay.
And it was an all boys high school too, so the class was like, okay,
All right.
all right.
No one fuck this up.
Let's be mature. Show us the boobs. Those were the days. So he complains about that while Leonard is online and he finds an auction for a prop from the Time Machine movie. And I did a little background on this. This was what I called my first IQ point. Did you get anything?
Yeah, I actually researched this too. I researched both movies that they talked about. So they talked about the Time Machine, and then they made a Sophie's Choice reference.
Oh yeah. I didn't look into Sophie's Choice, but I know about it, and I think I saw it when I was younger. But lead
I've actually
into it.
never. I looked into it just because I know the reference just because of pop culture, but I've never seen it.
It's
so
like
I just wanted to look a little bit more into it, just a little bit more understanding.
What's it all about?
All right, Sophie's Choice was a movie from 1982. It was it starred Meryl Streep and Kevin Kline. It was based on the 1979 novel. Sophie is a survivor of Nazi concentration camps who has found a reason to live with Nathan, a sparking, if unsteady, American Jew obsessed with the Holocaust. And it's called Sophie's Choice because if anybody doesn't want to be spoiled on this movie from 1982, I guess you could skip ahead.
Yeah, skip ahead
her
10
choice
seconds.
was that her choice was that the Jewish people were not treated well, as people know. So they gave her a choice. She had to pick between her two children who was going to live and who was going to survive. Even if she couldn't make the choice, they both die.
Mm-hmm.
So very hard choice. So
was it
that's
that
when
she was able to take one with her and leave the other one?
I didn't read that far ahead because I didn't want to be spoiled because
Too
I might
spoiled.
watch it.
Uh,
But that's kind of what Sophie's Choice was.
but they're both young kids, so it's like
Yeah.
even though the notion was that if she's leaving one, the chance of it surviving are unlikely. So I'm
It's a
not.
damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. It's she has to live with either just only saving one of them or
Mm,
losing both of them.
yeah, exactly.
So either way, there's gonna be like you're kind of damned.
Hmm.
And then you did some research on the time machine.
Yeah, so I got I didn't do that much with the movie itself except kind of a list. There's been many adaptations for plays, comics, radio shows, but the original was an 84-page novella by H.G. Wells, published in 1895, and it was later turned into a 1949 BBC teleplay. Then the version that they're talking about is the 1960 version, and then there was a TV film apparently in the 70s, 1978, that was kind of modernized where it was about like a guy in the 70s inventing the time machine as opposed to more 1800s. And then there's also the 2002 like blockbuster version of it where the moon falls apart and messes up the planet. But in all of them, it's about a guy who invents a time machine and goes so far into the future that the world's kind of come to an end, and there's two societies, kind of mutants named Morlocks who live underground, and the I'm gonna butcher this, but the Eloi, uh,
I think that's how
that's
Sheldon pronounced it
pronounce it,
too.
who live above ground, and they kind of live a very peaceful, happy life. Except the Morlocks come out every now and then, steal one away, and eat them. Very cannibalistic. And then I got that the terms for these that the Eloi, and I got this from Wikipedia, so take it as you want because it's not completely certified, but some other information suggested it too. Eloi comes from the Hebrew word Elohim, which means lesser gods. And then the Morlocks, there's a few thoughts on this. There's one really quick note that it might mean Morlachi, uh, basically a group of Christians in a part of Croatia. And I didn't see a whole lot why it might be. It's just that the names are similar. But the other two are that it might come from the Canaanite god Moloch, who is the god of child sacrifice. Or it could be kind of it kind of seemed like a slang term or a not a widely used term, but a Scots term for rubbish, which the word is Molochs, and apparently miners could call themselves Molochs at some point in time, and so it's kind of this notion that Morlocks might be a play on the word miners that H.G. Wells was used to. But I kind of like the idea that it's the Canaanite god of child sacrifice because that is horrendous, and these creatures come out like and try to eat people. So that makes sense to me.
Yeah, so maybe they took it as they take someone, they're sacrificing
Yeah,
them.
and the Eloi, it's been a while since I've seen any of the films, but I remember them being kind of uh, content, like, oh, it happens. Like they didn't really seem to care that much.
Oh, they got Ryan. It happens.
Where's Ryan? He's been eaten. Oh, wow. Okay. sometimes, sometimes you get Molochs.
Yep.
Did you have anything else about the film?
Nope, that's pretty much it. You pretty much summed it up.
Nailed on the head. All right, so we move along to Leonard bidding $800 on this item, and he's kind of scared because he doesn't really have $800, and they plan on snipers coming in at the last second and outbidding him. And every single auction I've ever had, people have done this. They come in and just absurdly outbid it so that they can get the lowest price possible before I have time to ride the bid up any higher, right? Have you ever not had that happen? No snipers?
No, sometimes here and there. I don't really go on eBay that often, and when I do, I just cop out and do the buy now. And then it has happened every once in a while when we put something up for sale. Because when we moved here, we started downsizing a lot more. I downsize a lot in life, and yeah, it is kind of fun to watch it just skyrocket at the very end.
It's like last 10 seconds and vroom, way up, right? Yeah, I thought this part was funny where it's like, come on, snipers, where are you, snipers?
Where are you? Where are those snipers, Howard?
And there are no snipers. And so they say, congrats, you are the new owner, the owner of a miniature time machine. But the joke is, it's not a miniature replica. It is a life-sized version.
And I did a little bit of research on how much that would actually be worth now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so if you want to call this an IQ point, I wasn't sure how we should distinguish between IQ points because there's nothing really that smart about this. But at the same time, it's something that we did research. So I wasn't sure how we wanted to distinguish between. I mean, it's our own system, so we could figure it out.
What are the rules?
This one's actually worth 20 IQ points.
Yeah, it's all the IQ points.
This is everything. Podcast over.
We have IQ'd the world with this one fact.
But anyways, we'll call it an IQ point because we're learning something. It may not be academic, but we're learning something. Well, I checked out a few sites. I tried to look for a life-size replica like what Leonard bought. And the only one that I could find was on a website called invaluable.com, where they had a life-size replica valued at $10,000 to $12,000.
Wow.
So he got a pretty good deal. You think about it. And then I found some other like smaller versions of it. I found this paperweight size one worth $31.61. And then Etsy is selling one of made out of 14 karat gold, and it was worth $495. But it's gold, so.
Is it like a action figure size?
Yeah, it was pretty small.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because if I got it, I'd want to play with it. So, paperweight you just look at, but I want this to have like moving pieces.
Well, I mean, it's definitely a paperweight style. It was like a trophy. It looked kind of like a trophy, so essentially it was like a paperweight.
Sad.
No.
I played with paperweights as toys anyways. Like I had a paperweight of the Statue of Liberty and Transformers played with that and just moved it in and like, they're fighting with the Statue of Liberty now, whatever.
I found a flat rock that looked like the Millennium Falcon and I used that I used to fly it around my house.
Imagination's rock.
Yep, the power of imagination.
They mention what? Oh, that's what he says. That with shipping, it's technically about $4 a pound, and I imagine that they got a steal on shipping too, because that looked like something that you would need to pay freight prices for, like hundreds of dollars, if not the same price of the unit itself. So I was
if he said, I did a little bit of math, and if he said if it's about $4 a pound based off what he paid, that means it's 200 pounds. So that it looks like it weighs more than 200 pounds.
Yeah. Unless it's like all cardboard, but they sit in it and it holds their weight. So I don't think it's just cheap paper mache.
So they got a deal. And they also talked about the price of shrimp. At the time, it was $12.50, and it actually hasn't changed that much.
Huh.
I looked at some prices of shrimp, and it honestly depends on the size. Like the mini shrimp that they're talking about, like the 55, 60 size. Mm-hmm. It's probably it's $11.99 to $13.99 a pound. But then the larger prawn size shrimp, that's probably like 15, 18 size.
Yeah.
Those are $19.99 a pound.
The like mini lobster ones.
Yeah.
I love me some shrimp.
Yep.
So they're in the hallway again, trying to get it upstairs, and Howard and Raj are on the bottom pushing up, while Leonard and Sheldon are trying to pull it. And, well, actually, I'm sorry, I take a step back. They're thinking about ways to get it upstairs before they just muscle it up. And they're like, well, we could use the elevator. Of course, the elevator's broken, which is the ongoing joke, right? which is when I came into this, like the only idea I knew about the show was the elevator's out of service like the whole time. So that comes in, and I get a point for being like Sheldon here. He turns and says, you think we should call somebody about that? About fixing the elevator? And I can see myself kind of avoiding the obvious, neglecting to call somebody, and be like, maybe I should call somebody to fix that.
And then you move on with life.
Exactly. I forget about it until the next time. So 1 point for Sheldon here, episode 14.
And one thing that I was going to mention about this scene that I really like is how arrogant Howard gets. It's kind of a common trend for all of them that they get very arrogant. Then the first moment that the first sign that they can't solve the problem, they just accept defeat.
Yeah.
This sucker's broken.
And he makes a big deal too, right? About all the stuff he does in space and vacuums and satellites and astronomy, and he goes over, pushes the button and goes, that's all.
Yep. Guess we're out.
That reminded me of one time I came back from Europe, and this doesn't happen so much anymore. What do they call wall warts? Cables can typically handle different voltages. But back then when I went, if you plugged, I guess still, if you plug something that's not meant to go into a European plug, even if it fits, it can fry your electronic device.
Because like the voltage, wait, is it because the voltages are ever so slightly different, even though it might say the same?
What are we? We're like 220, or we're like 120, right?
120,
and they're like 2 something.
Okay,
230 volts. And I used to know more about this, but yeah, I fried some expensive walkie-talkies and came back and found a computer repair guy who did circuitry fixing stuff, and called him, and he just laughed at me and said, buy new ones. And I'm like, oh, wow. I just don't understand how he still has a job when his suggestions are just buy new ones. I mean, like, what does he fix? It seems like nothing can be fixed. But yeah, Howard reminded me of that when he says, nope, it's broken. Hi, so then they finally resort to pushing it upstairs, and Penny comes out, which causes Leonard to move, and you hear Raja and Howard kind of yelling in the background, right?
Yeah, because it definitely falls on them.
It falls on them. And, where's this thing? Oh, that, Penny needs to get to work, and she's running late, and they're like, well, it's almost ready, and she's like, no, I need to get out now. And Sheldon's like, just go to the roof and jump over to the next building and walk down, right? She's like, fine, gets talked into it, but she's not very happy about it. She seems kind of cranky. But she's running late for work, so who knows what's going on. But I do like the part they're explaining what they're carrying up the stairs, and Leonard says that the time machine's not going to help her get to work, but he could use it to drop her off yesterday.
Yep. If you wait till I get it up here, I could drop you off yesterday.
Yeah, I could drop you off yesterday. And I'm giving a point for being like Leonard here. I'm giving points all over the place.
That you give useless advice?
Useless, joking advice that nobody laughs at. About time machine.
You know what? I'll laugh.
Thank you.
I got you.
Off yesterday. No one laughed. But doesn't Sheldon say, like, that was kind of funny, huh?
He does a little pitiful laugh.
Yeah.
If I was giving myself points, I'd give Sheldon. I'd give myself a Sheldon point right now, because my wife constantly points out that she knows my real laugh versus my fake pity laugh. And apparently I give fake pity laughs a lot.
That's like in Friends, the work laugh, right? You have to have a laugh for work where you're trying to flatter your coworkers or your boss.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely a little pity laugh there. I appreciate a good pity laugh. It makes me as happy as a real laugh, so I don't care.
I'll take it. Somebody is acknowledging me, so I will take it.
Exactly. It's better than just looking and walking away like Penny did. That broke my heart a little bit inside. So they're inside admiring the machine, and Sheldon kind of summarizes the movie about the Morlocks and the Eloi and the guy going forward. Howard calls it a chick magnet. And I don't know if it's chick magnet, but I sure did think it was awesome. I don't know if I'd pay $800 for it.
Did you watch that movie growing up?
Yeah.
Did you? Okay, so the moment you saw it, you pretty much knew what it was.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I knew nothing about this movie, so
Oh.
So that's why it didn't arouse me down there.
Oh yeah, there was arousal. I'll admit it. The first to admit it. Did you did you know about the 2002 one?
I knew about it, but I didn't watch it.
I think it was kind of a commercial flop, but yeah.
See, if they had the Game of Thrones throne, that would have gotten me off.
Right? They do that on Parks and Rec, right?
Yep.
She gets.
I would react just like then.
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
And then Raj is comparing it to the guy next door who has a jacuzzi. And he's like, "This is so much better."
He's ready to brag about it.
And he wants it out on his balcony, right? His porch, so everybody can see it. And they're talking about, are they really going to be able to move it back and forth? How do they share it? Because they've decided they're going to split the cost, right? And it's going to be a timeshare time machine. Raj's line. I love that line. Timeshare time machine. And Sheldon says, we're going to have to get some ground rules. And the only rule that they really come up with is always wear pants.
Good rule.
Good rule. And Howard's like, I would have had a towel down. This reminds me of, kids do weird things, but boys and girls together. I was on a cruise one time and met some girls and some guys, and somehow we're going to play strip poker, but we couldn't find any cards. So we played strip bubblegum in a dish.
How do you play that? That sounds very familiar. How do you play that again?
It's kind of like Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Moe.
Oh, so did you lose every time?
Oh, I think everybody lost. I think the fun was just getting naked.
Oh, so everyone won then?
Yeah, everybody won. Except we definitely put towels down. So I'm like, you know what? I appreciate Howard putting towels down. I can relate to us using towels in that situation too.
Well, it sounds like you had a very good cruise.
That was a good cruise. That was one of the better ones, I do say. Bubblegum. Nude bubblegum. Strip bubblegum.
And who got the bubblegum?
We all had some bubblegum that day.
Hi-oh. There's going to be a fun sound effect right there.
Somebody's going to hear this and they're going to hunt me down and be like, Ryan, we vowed never to talk of that day again. And you just said it on a podcast.
Hey, Ryan, what's the first rule of bubblegum?
Oh no, it was never to talk about bubblegum. Oh no. And so now they're talking about who's going to get the time machine and when, and Raj says bi-monthly, and this gets into a IQ point for me because they start discussing, does bi-monthly mean once every other month or twice a month? Did you do any research on this?
No, but I'm glad you did, because I thought about doing some stuff, but then, because this is something that always like it never confuses me, but it always leads to like so much more clarification. You always have to clarify. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you can't just say bi-monthly and then just do it. You have to explain to that person which bi-monthly. So you almost need a different term for each one.
Right? That's what there was an article on Merriam-Webster.com about this, and it was kind of snarky. But they said a couple things. One, that dictionaries don't make and cannot change a language. So Merriam-Webster cannot just make up a new word. It's up to the speakers to create a word and use it regularly enough that it becomes part of the lexicon, part of the vocabulary of that culture. And so far, English speakers have not created a word to make bi-weekly or bi-monthly any clearer. So they suggest trying to put in context or explain before or after you say it which version you mean, just to clarify for your reader or your listener. But they do say it causes a lot of confusion because bi means two, and that can mean to occur every 2 times or every other, or it can mean occurring twice during one period. And they bring up a connection to biannual. And I thought this was interesting because I always thought biannual was much like bi-weekly, bi-monthly, and I'd be like, biannual, does that mean twice a year or every other year? But technically, it says that biannual, biannual, means twice a year. Biannual, bi with an ennial, means every 2 years. So they're
I've
actually
never heard that term before.
right. I didn't know it, and they said even though there is a separate term, so many people have botched this that biannual with the A is used for both, just like bi-weekly and bi-monthly. I'm like, yeah, I'm part of that problem because I didn't even know there was another term.
Yeah, I had no idea.
And they suggest that you might want to just say semi-annual, because semi-annual is clearly twice a year if that is what you're going with.
You almost need to just eliminate the terminology in general and just say, hey, we're going to meet twice a year.
Yeah, twice a year, or every 2 years we'll meet, right?
Yeah, so like whenever I set up a meeting and it needs to be like bi-monthly, I just say, hey, I'm going to set this up for every other week.
Now the question is, what do you do with bicentennial, where it's like every 100 years, or bimillennial?
Doesn't matter, I'll be dead.
That's true.
Who cares what they do?
Yeah, that's the next generation's problems, those fools. So that was the IQ point on language, that English is confusing, and Merriam-Webster has kind of flown their papers up in the air and given up on this because there's no solution.
It's funny that I follow some weird stuff on Instagram, and one of them like is just like these like fun facts. And every once in a while, one of the facts is like Webster's dictionary just adds this term to the dictionary. And it's funny that they're adding like these unique words or foreign words. Like I think mukbang is now in the dictionary, which you wouldn't really, I mean, I guess because it's trendy and everything, but how have we not decided on a new word for this?
Right?
And mukbang is in there.
It seems like we could have fixed some of the first or made these problems a priority before adding more problems or more terms. It reminds me of I think I've talked to you about that show, The Critic, with Jay Sherman, the cartoon. And his boss is this billionaire named Duke something, and every now and then he knows people in the dictionary and just calls up the dictionary and pays them to add his word so he can win like at Scrabble. He's like, I need you to add Quizzlebuck or something. And he's like, what's it mean? I don't care what it means. Make something up. And he's like, how are people using my other words? Nobody's using them? Well, that's a Duke-tastrophe. He's like making his own language. Duke-tastrophe.
God, if we only had that power.
Right. I could make so many fun words. All right, so Sheldon says It doesn't matter if it's bi-monthly or bi-monthly, twice a month or every other month. No and no. He doesn't want to share it. It's going to stay there, basically. So it's kind of showing his selfishness, but at the same time, that looked like a pain in the ass to transport.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. Even if they found a way to do it, like they're not going to enjoy doing it.
Yeah, it'd be that'd be rough. And Leonard, as being the good guy, says they can't be selfish with the time machine. They got to share it, and jumps in behind it. He claims first use, and he chooses a date, March 10th, 1876. And what was that date?
That was when Alexander Graham Bell invents the telephone and calls out to Dr. Watson.
You think of like Sherlock Holmes when he says Watson?
Yeah.
Okay,
definitely. I thought about that too.
I'm not the only one. I was like, was he Sherlock? Oh wait, no, that wasn't Sherlock.
Yeah, I looked up what his exact words were, and according to like documentation, he said, "Mr. Watson, come here. I want you." I don't know if he said it as sexually, but
oh, in my mind he did.
I want you.
I want you. I need you, Watson.
Come here.
Watson boy.
It was actually Watson boy.
Watson boy.
Come here. I want you.
Come. Watson. Oh, wow. So, I did a little bit about this. I'm going to say IQ 0.3. Did you do any more research on this?
I did not.
Oh, I have just a little bit that it is debated over whether or not Bell actually invented the telephone, because there's another person, Elijah Gray, who there are claims that Gray invented the telephone, and Bell basically bribed a patents officer to see the patent and copied it and got it working. But this is kind of, not really sure. And throughout history, there's been debates about this with everything, like the light bulb and the car and stuff, right? So, we may never know. But what I did get, that was from Wired.com, but I looked over some websites and found some famous phone calls throughout history. And so the 1876 was the first phone call by Bell. In 1973, April 3rd, 1973, was the first cell phone call by Motorola engineer Martin Cooper. And he was calling from 6th Avenue, New York, to a rival inventor at Bell Labs. So basically mocking him, saying, hey, I finished the cell phone first, right?
Ha ha ha.
So big phone call there. Then we get... this is one I knew offhand, and I looked it up, but date is a little unknown. But before Macintosh, before Apple was a thing, Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs were friends, and they were doing things that were a little less than legal with telephones. They were building blue boxes, and a blue box basically made noises and allowed you to get free calls wherever you were. And so they could make long distance calls for free. And apparently, one of their first ones, they were in their 20s, they pranked the Vatican pretending to be Henry Kissinger.
That was the first thing that they did?
Yeah, they're like, who are we going to call? The Vatican. And say, we're Henry Kissinger. We need to speak to the Pope. We'll call back in a little bit. Get him ready. But apparently, the Vatican actually had numbers to verify that. And so when they called
like a star 69?
Yeah. No, it was like they actually had Kissinger's actual phone number or something. I don't understand. But they called and they're like, you're not him. We just talked to him. And they're like, bye. Oh, no. Then we get 1969. Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong got a phone call from Nixon while they were on the moon. Pretty important phone call. I'm not really doing this in any order. And then the last one I got, which I thank especially answeringservices.com for putting, they didn't have all these on the list, but they mentioned this one. I felt like it truly deserved to be on there. 1996, Scream came out, and we got the famous phone call, "What's your favorite scary movie?"
Well, what is your favorite scary movie?
Scream! No!
That was a good one. I really did like
Coincidentally.
that.
No, I don't know. I like Event Horizon a lot, but there's a sci-fi movie that I'd probably say is up there called Dark City. And
Oh, I kind of vaguely remember that.
Kiefer Sutherland is like a scientist. What's her name? Jennifer Connelly, from Labyrinth is in it, and she's like a bar singer. And there's like aliens who every night at midnight come out and change everybody's memories up. And I'd say it's more sci-fi, but I could see it being considered horror because, well, the aliens are like possessing dead corpses and stuff. So there's some scary stuff there. It's a fun movie.
Mhm. Well, I'm looking at the calendar, and based off when we're gonna play this, it's gonna be the week after Halloween. So sorry for the late recommendations, everyone. Have a spooky Thanksgiving.
Well, to be fair, Christmas and Yule is technically a scary time of year. We've just, in the past like century, have made it more of a warm, giving, loving holiday. I mean, you look into some Scandinavian stuff with Krampus and the what are they called? Dalschnickels. They're like smaller Krampuses, maybe, but basically
Yeah.
big winter demons that try to eat people. You ever watch that show? What is it? Big Mouth, the cartoon?
No, but you told. I think you've told me about it. That you really like it.
I love it. It's very raunchy humor. But there's a Christmas special, and there's two twins from I want to say they're from Sweden or something, and they're like, in our country, Christmas is very special, and they tell the story of like a demon lobster spider that comes out of the ocean and eats kids that are bad. It's like, whoa! I don't think it's true, but I love that mentality. So
Oh, precious memories.
keep the fear alive all year long. That's my philosophy. All right, so and I would say with that 96 Scream phone call, that caller ID, I believe, was a thing, but it became a lot more popular after that movie, like star 690ing people and actually having little caller IDs telling you who's calling so that you wouldn't run into the same situation. Although, as soon as they got that, you could just like push other buttons to disable the caller ID to make it unavailable, right?
Oh, that I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't remember that part, but I do remember the first time I started getting caller ID. It was like magical.
Right?
I can just ignore you.
So this is what screening phone calls means. And they talk. Okay, so moving on. He wants to go see Belle invent the telephone, but the thing is, the time machine's not a car. It doesn't move in space. It just moves forward and backward in time. And so it's stationary. And the question is, how would he get to Boston if he went back in time? And that kind of defeats his whole purpose. And then they break it down even further. How would he get inside the house? Like, just knock on the door and ask Miss Bell, like, can I come in? I'm a real big fan of your husband's work, right? I think that would go over well. And then they get into, I love how this conversation just like, what's the word? Delves off the deep end. It delineates, derails into something completely different. Like they're talking about the time machine, talking about telephones, and now they're talking about getting an invisible cloaking device from the future so he could just sneak in.
I think that's one thing that I love about them as a group of friends is that they could talk about anything and they could just lead to anywhere and nothing is ridiculous.
Right? And they just accept it and they keep going. They're like, okay, yeah. They don't question or challenge it. Even Sheldon, who I would think would be like, why are we talking about this? Just plays along. Like, yeah, it makes sense.
Obviously we need a cloaking device if we want to get there.
Yeah, just go into the future and they start calculating the dates to get a cloaking device according to Star Trek.
But before we get into that, before we go that, as they talked about time travel rules, that's where I entered in a new IQ point.
Oh, the paradoxes.
Yeah, so there are different rules for time travel based on movies and everything like that.
Yeah.
Did you do any research on that?
I didn't.
Okay, so first off, before we dive into that, do you have a favorite time travel movie?
Oh, let's get back to that. What about
Okay,
you?
think about that.
Yeah.
Um, I do have a lot. I do think it's a cop out to say Back to the Future, but that's really on the top one because that one is a near perfect movie.
It really is. Especially
And
for
then,
being like PG, right?
yeah,
Yeah, it's fantastic.
and not sure if this counts as a time travel movie, but it's an infinite loop movie, but Groundhog Day.
Oh.
And then I'm going to give special shout outs to Looper. And then
Hmm.
I'm going to throw it out there because I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
Oh. I wouldn't even have thought of that one, but you're right.
So I'm going to throw those out there as my top ones, but there are quite a bit of them. All right, so back to the IQ point as you mull over this.
I'm still thinking.
But what are the other time travel rules, and how many are there? So I found this on Hollywood, or I found this on YoungHollywood.com, and these are their versions as depicted in most movies. So there's three of them. So number one is the alternative universes, or the multiverse. So in this, time is linear, and every choice and decision you make creates a branch universe. Examples of movies: Star Trek 2009 and the MCU. Pretty much everything that's happening in the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now. Number
Ah.
two, there's the past, present, and future is predetermined. So in this scenario, nothing can be changed, everything is fixed no matter what you do. You can't change anything, all events are fixed in time. So examples of this is Lost, The Terminator, and 12 Monkeys. And then the last one is what you mentioned is having the paradoxes. So you change the past, you change the future. Essentially, it's the butterfly effect. So that's what happens in Back to the Future. And then most recently in my world, I watched Umbrella Academy. They break it down really well, calling it the grandfather paradox. So it's like you go back in time and you change things, then you could destroy the universe if you change the wrong thing because it creates a paradox. Because you kill someone, if you go in the past and you kill someone that hasn't been born yet, then they won't come around to do that thing to go back in the past.
Yeah.
So
Which
those
is
are the.
what in Back to the Future he's worried about a
He's fading
paradox like
away.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because if his parents don't end up together, it means he was never born.
And that's why his hands like start fading away, right?
Yep.
I remember in the video game from Nintendo, like your time meter was a photograph, and your siblings would disappear if you weren't quick enough in a stage. And I'm
Ah.
like, that's very clever. I like that.
So then I looked into the reality of time travel.
Mm.
And I found this on livescience.com. So this brings in Einstein's theory of relativity, which suggests time travel is not impossible. So according to this theory, we live in a four-dimensional continuum, space and time, in which space and time are interchangeable. The faster you move through space, the slower you move through time, meaning you age slower. This can exist in gravitational poles, but they need to be very strong, like wormholes. So then it led into like this huge rabbit hole of like wormholes, time space travel, and everything like that. So, according to Einstein, he thinks that there is a possibility of going back in time, but you'd have to go through like a wormhole.
Interesting. I think I'm still thinking about my favorite movies. Donnie Darko.
You weren't even paying attention to anything I had to say.
Wait, were we talking
Don't
about
worry,
time travel?
don't worry, I do that all the time.
um, I think Donnie Darko. I don't think it's my favorite time travel movie, but they get into the Einsteinian theories of it that you would need a wormhole, and I believe there's notions of something to exist in the wormhole, like something, a metal unit or cylinder or something. And have you seen Donnie Darko?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Great. I know some
It's
people.
been a really long time though.
But yeah, and that I don't even think I realized it was a time travel movie till like at the very end. And it's still kind of open ended what it you take it to mean. I think I'm leaning towards Terminator 2 as one of the top ones.
Yeah.
I love the whole notion of fate is what you make, right? And that one does push more that we can change things and have a better future. Of course, they kind of changed the story up in the third and fourth one, but for as 2 goes, I like that. I thought it was an awesome sequel to the first one. It was better than the first one. And
Oh, yeah.
Sarah Connor's character development into like this badass who has like a stockpile of weapons, like that was great. And the whole notion of, can we change the future, or are we stuck to repeat our problems?
I actually just thought of another one that I think is going to make on this top list. It was really, I think if you haven't seen this, I think you would really like it. It's called Triangle.
I have seen it.
Yeah.
It's been a while though. It's kind of a slasher film too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a good mix.
But it's not like horror in the sense of like the traditional genre of slasher horror. Like it really got you thinking just about like time travel and like loops and everything and being like stuck and everything. It's like, oh, that was good. I thought about that for days after.
I remember there's one movie that I made my dad watch, and it was an indie, very low budget, but these guys make a time machine basically out of a storage facility. They need the metal in the storage facility to turn it into a time machine, and they keep screwing things up and going back to try to fix it. And like as they go back, it has tolls on their health, like their noses start bleeding and stuff, and like it just gets really intense. Like, but those movies get really confusing, and like you said, make you really, really think. I enjoy them though.
Yeah, I like the stuff that really kind of makes you think and put the pieces together.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch Dark?
No, I think I've seen the first
Netflix
episode. It's like a German dub, right?
Yeah.
Sub dub.
That's so good.
It's good. I heard good things, and I watched the first episode. I'm like, I don't know. And somebody's like, you have to keep watching.
I'm sorry. I would have thought that you would have liked the dark, ominous kind of vibe and everything.
I'm going to be honest. I don't know how this happened, but I didn't watch the first episode. I think I watched like the 4th episode, thinking it was the first episode. I pushed play, and like it started me off like halfway in a season. And I'm like, so this makes no sense. Yeah. I'm like, they're really banking on me understanding and picking up. And then like the episode ended. I'm like, that wasn't the first episode. No wonder it didn't make any sense.
All this time you're like, wow, Germans are really ahead of the game and really smart if they expect me to understand this.
Their storytelling techniques are way above ours.
All right, back to
the show.
Okay, so that's that was my IQ point on the different time travel rules. So now we were talking about they set the date to the future now.
Yeah. They are going to try to set it so when Star Trek suggests cloaking devices are discovered by humans, and it suggests that Captain Kirk steals it from the Romulans. And I did a partial IQ here because basically their data was correct, that the stardate 5027.3, according to MemoryAlphaFandom.com, in the episode The Enterprise Incident, Season 3, Episode 4, it is the Enterprise's job to sneak in and steal cloaking technology from the Romulans. And I believe Captain Kirk dresses up kind of like a Romulan and sneaks aboard. But, I didn't see a log for 5027.3 exactly, but I did find one for 5027.4 where the captain's log talks about installing the device they have stolen.
Yeah, I think Sheldon translated it in the episode saying it was January 10th, 2328.
Yeah.
And I think I must have written my notes down because I wrote that it was Season 3, Episode 2.
Ooh.
Maybe I wrote it down wrong.
I might have got it wrong too, or maybe the internet lied to me.
In the middle, it was Episode 3.
Dun dun dun. Actually, the show went back in time. It started off in episode 4, but it finished it up in episode 2.
There it is, cloaking device.
The best time traveling ever.
Some nerd out there is listening to this and say, "You fucktards!
You've ruined Star Trek and time travel for me.
I hate you!
Damn you, Ryan and Rob!
1-star review.
Go play bubblegum.
Please don't, though. We need some 5-star reviews.
Yeah, that's all we live for. Yeah, so it's episode 2, 3, or 4. We're not sure.
Somewhere in that, but we both agree it was in season 3.
Yeah, and so he pulls the lever, and I love this again. The notion of friends being these friends, like knowing each other this well, or being able to talk about anything. They even all simultaneously go into sped up actions, like Leonard's going through time, right?
Yep.
And so Howard goes over and like goes through a book like he's reading really fast, and Sheldon's kind of moving and dancing around. I thought that was hilarious.
That was a great scene. It just shows how tight they are as friends, that they're not afraid to like live in their own world. And yeah, it's great.
They're all thinking kind of similar things and just going with the flow. Yeah,
yep.
That's great. And then Penny jumps back in to spoil the mood, right?
But before that, I actually did a slight IQ point on star dates.
Oh.
Because I was really curious, because like I know that every episode they kind of start by saying when in time it is.
Yeah.
Star dates. And like I was like, I wonder how that actually translates. Because Sheldon was able to quickly translate.
Like in his head, yeah.
Yeah. So either that or they talk. Well, I think he must have just translated in his head, because in Star Trek they always go by that star date.
Mm-hmm.
But a star date is a fictional system of time arbitrarily made so the audience didn't know when it was taking place in relation to reality. So I found an article, and according to several articles that I read, in the original series, star dates meant nothing. That it was just arbitrary, because episodes were not aired in order of filming. So each episode, it would kind of jump back and forth and everything. So they were kind of victim of the studio, that they played things out of order.
Yeah.
Which still happens. I don't really understand why studios do that.
But, yeah, I don't either. It kind of, for adventure shows, and when you have filler episodes and stuff, or something like The Simpsons, a sitcom, where the stories don't necessarily go in order, I guess you can get away with it. But if the story applies or builds, try watching Breaking Bad out of order, right? That's not going to work. I don't know why it's acceptable with some shows. I feel like the story should build on itself.
Speaking of which, we actually just got through Breaking Bad again, and we just watched El Camino.
Oh, yeah. That was a great follow-up film. I
have some things to say.
Oh, really? Really?
I don't know if we should go on this it's our show.
It's our show. Let's do it. Yeah.
So, all right. I'm going to say, if no one has seen El Camino, maybe just skip like 2 minutes while I go on this tangent. But I enjoyed it. I liked where it went, but I didn't like the story itself. I thought I spent so much time almost like raging in my own head. Like, I don't care about what happened in the past, like, because it was a series of flashbacks of how Jesse got to like where is Jesse going now, and they were showing a flashback of why he was going there. They could have cut so much of it out. Like, you really didn't need to know this. Like, you could have just instantly showed like a 30-second clip of why he was going there, but instead it was so drawn out. All the stuff with like Todd and everything like that. It's like, I kind of don't care. The whole point of me wanting to see this was like 10 years later, I wanted to see the aftermath. I wanted more of what happens in the future, not in the past. That's what I was like kind of raging on it. Overall, liked the story, liked the ending, but the storytelling, just overall, it was like, why are they showing this? Yeah.
I can see that. I liked it just because I was so curious about it. It's getting to him and Todd, and like him basically being in slavery, right?
Yeah.
And I was curious.
but that was the entire season, like last season of Breaking Bad, though.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, well, I didn't really need to see it in the movie. We already knew this happened.
That's true. That's fair. And I'm comparing it a little bit to like the only other show I know that was wrapped up with a movie like that was Deadwood, the HBO show. And like, I don't know, 15, 20 years after the show ended, they finally just released a movie like 2 years ago. Maybe now they're here. And I loved it. It was everything I needed in an ending to the series. So, comparing it to that, I can absolutely see that Deadwood had like no flashbacks. It wasn't like that at all. It was all just new material. But you're right, El Camino was a lot of flashbacks, and so part of me kind of forgot that it had new stuff in it. I just remember it as being flashbacks. So yeah.
Yeah, I guess if you watched it without watching Breaking Bad, it it is helpful to build context. I guess I'm speaking from a perspective that I just flew through the entire series.
Uh, and I'm thinking of Better Call Saul, which is all flashbacks too, but it's flashbacks from before Breaking Bad, so it's not like he's going to end up as a lawyer, but he's not
It was a
actually in.
prequel. Yeah, it was a prequel, but it had all new material.
Yeah, and,
But okay.
I was going to actually add to this that another good time travel movie, Star Trek First Contact. Where,
So you have seen some Star Treks. Well, aside the other stuff that we talked about last time.
This is I have.
Did it have Borgs in it? Is that why you watched it?
Yes, it did. It's the Borg goes back in the past and assimilates Earth, and before Earthlings can develop light speed travel and meet the Federation. And so basically kills off all life as we know it. And I thought it was epic. The Borg, the Queen of the Borg, has like moves around and gets put into like units. Like she's almost like a spider type thing. I love it. They're so creepy and like yeah. So anyways, great. That one, and I've seen Nemesis, which is Tom Hardy is Patrick Stewart's clone. And I basically watched it just to see what Tom Hardy was like in it.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. Was that like Tom Hardy's like first movie or
I think
something?
it was like one of his first. Yeah.
Huh.
And I think he was in some English films that were kind of smaller, but that was like, I don't know if it was his first big break, but it was the first one I have been able to watch. I'm like, yeah, I had no idea that was him. Back in the day, before anybody knew his name. All right, so we can move on. Everybody.
Almost. Back to star dates.
Oh, star dates. Yeah.
We're just like the group of friends in Big Bang Theory. Just deviate and just go with it. Moving forward to the next generation, star dates got more consistent. And the showrunners actually did devise a formula. So according to them, a star date is a 5-digit number followed by a decimal point and one more digit. Example, 41254.7. The first two digits of the star date are always 41. The 4 stands for 24th century. The 1 indicates first season. The additional 3 leading digits will progress unevenly during the course of the season from 000 to 999. The digit following the decimal point is generally regarded as the day counter. And I'm not sure how Sheldon calculated it because that episode that Sheldon translated was the original series.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they did devise like a different code for star dates of the original series that I just couldn't find.
Or something in fan fiction has referenced possibility of getting the code. Because like even the day, it's like, how do you get, if the day is the decimal 0.3, how do you get January 10th out of that? Nobody knows.
I'm shrugging my shoulders right now. Well, anyways, done with star dates. Back to Penny.
And she has a little tale to tell. And she wasn't in a good mood to begin with, but she's now in a very, very bad mood. And I believe her tale goes, is she went up to the roof to jump to the next building, but the gap was 3 feet. And so she fell and scraped her leg. And then the door was locked. And so to get down, she took the fire escape to the 3rd floor, where an Armenian family met her and called her inside to eat lunch and then try to hook her up with their son. And by that time, by the time she got to work, somebody had taken her shift, right? They had called somebody in.
Yeah.
And
So a huge waste of her time, and now she has a scraped knee.
Yeah. Although she could have had a date, right? So
Well, I did do a little diving into the next IQ point. I went into a usual Armenian meal.
Oh.
Yeah, and like I said, like if you listen to a lot of our episodes, I will do everything in my power to turn this into a food podcast. So I was a little curious because if she had 8 courses of lamb, I was like, wow, they must have a lot of lamb. What else do they do? What else isn't an Armenian meal? So I found this on several websites. I went to nomadparadise.com, theculturetrip.com, and willflyforfood.net. And their cuisine is a lot of Mediterranean, Middle Eastern, and European influence. Their cuisine is rich in vegetables, meat, and fish, but mostly comprised of eggplant, lamb, and lavash, which is a flatbread. In addition to cracked wheat and bulgur in place of rice, it has so much diversity in food because of its location. It was like in between all of these other, it's like very landlocked.
Mm-hmm.
So it was actually a prime location for wars between empires. So it was constantly being like taken over, exchanges of power. So then like certain foods dominated, another food dominated. So then that's where it kind of turned into like this big hodgepodge of things. So here are some famous dishes of Armenia. They have dolma, which is minced meat and rice wrapped in fresh grape leaves. They have korovats, which is bone-in meat grilled, usually lamb or pork. Lavash, which I already talked about, is a flatbread.
Yeah.
Baklava, which I love baklava.
Yeah, how can you not love baklava?
Oh yeah. Layers of phyllo dough filled with nuts.
Mm.
It's traditionally Turkish, but there is an Armenian version.
Oh.
And harissa, not to be confused with the chili paste, but it's a porridge made with stewed chicken and cracked ground wheat. So it's very similar to, if you're Asian, it's very similar to congee or juk.
Mm.
And harissa is actually considered to be Armenia's national dish, according to a lot of people. So lots of lamb. So checks out that Penny would have lots of lamb during that.
You know, I love lamb. I love the taste. A lot of people do not like it. Most of my family dislikes it, but for me, lamb chops, lamb kebabs, lamb everything.
I love lamb too, right. With seasoned with rosemary.
Yeah.
Sometimes I like it just plain, but like if you're like a lamb newbie, have it with like a mint jelly.
Mint jelly.
Like a jalapeno mint jelly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so good.
But again, by itself it's great too. Shepherd's pie with lamb in it. Oh yeah.
So, yeah, the traditional way. Nobody really does that here. It's always with ground beef here.
Yep. In fact, I was talking to somebody about it. I'm like, no, it's supposed to have lamb. And they thought I was crazy. I'm like, no, it's like traditional. Like, no. Yeah. I'm like, okay. I can't debate that. And so, ready to move on?
Yep. Ready to move on. Where Penny is still going crazy on the guys.
She really lays into them, calling them pathetic, right?
Yeah, it's very, very. I guess I want to say it's over the line, but at the same time, she was very upset. But at the same time, you shouldn't let your emotions get a hold of you. But at the same time, she's an out of work waitress, or no, she's an out of work actress that needs this shift. Having that apartment in Pasadena cannot be cheap.
Yeah. That's
But at the same time, why didn't you just climb over? the time machine.
That's what I was thinking too. That you make it work.
Yeah, it's like I would have climbed or wedged through that over the going on the roof and jumping across the roof. Like, no.
Even just 3 feet, I'd be terrified. Like, I missed by 6 inches and now I'm dead. I fell. All right.
Yeah, because aren't they on the? I think they're on the fourth floor.
I think so.
I don't know if they mentioned it, but I think they're on. It's pretty high up, and they have more up going up. So who knows how much higher it goes?
Mm-hmm.
3 feet, I'd be pretty scared too.
Oh man, just thinking about it, I'm like, that's the length of my desk. Wow. Yeah, I think there's something to be said that, like you said, taking her emotions out, that she was the one who was running late, and I kind of feel like maybe she was mad at herself and deflecting, or is it called deflecting? Projecting that anger out on them, when it was, if she had left when she was supposed to, they wouldn't have been in the hallway to begin with. And the fact that she came out right at the time they got stuck on that particular place, that's not really their fault. It sucks, but
like, imagine if it was someone else. Imagine if it was a new neighbor moving in. Would she have still freaked out at them?
Mm-hmm. And it really comes back to, well, she should leave earlier next time. It's like I get frustrated with traffic. Sometimes, Seattle, I feel like I can never guess traffic. It's not always in the rush hours. Sometimes traffic is at like 6 to 7 in the morning. Sometimes it's at 10 in the morning. Sometimes it's only from 4 to 5, and sometimes it's from 1 till 10 in the evening. Like, it never gets, and I get mad, and I want to blame the traffic, but it's really my own fault for knowing sometimes crap happens.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's kind of weird that she took out so much frustration on them. And gotta love Raj, where she leaves and he's like, my turn. Like, completely brushed her off.
Yeah, because nobody else took it personal except Leonard, because he has feelings for
because he likes her.
Penny. Yeah.
And it flash forwards to the night in the apartment, and Leonard is looking all sad and melancholy in his time machine, and he's thinking about wanting to go back and not buying the time machine, which is where Sheldon starts talking about the paradoxes, right? Saying you can't do that, because if you went back and stopped yourself, you wouldn't be able to go back and stop yourself. Therefore, it wouldn't happen. It's interesting. And then I do like that Sheldon has a little bit of humanity here, where he picks up Leonard is upset, which is pretty clear, but for Sheldon to pick up on that, and then he turns around and says, do you want to talk about it?
Wait a minute. I wasn't just supposed to point it out. Do you need somebody?
That's I was thinking about it, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to give a point for being like Sheldon here. Awkward with emotional conversations, asking if Leonard wants to talk about the time machine problem. And there's a movie with I want to say Anna Kendrick, and who was Robin in the Dark Knight trilogy?
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah, in this movie he has cancer, and she's like his counselor. And
I don't remember her being in it, but yeah, it was what's it called? The Change Up?
I think so.
It was based on a true story on Seth Rogen's best friend.
Yeah. Let's look this up. No, that was a different one. Change Up. But Seth Rogen's in it, right?
Yeah.
And the
first one to find it wins.
I'm going. I just remember the cover is him shaving his head.
50-50.
50-50. It was Anna Kendrick, right?
Well, let's find out. Dun. Yeah, Anna Kendrick.
Cool.
Bryce Dallas Howard is in it too. Angelica Houston.
I need to watch this movie again. I really don't
Yeah, we should
remember
watch this
much of
again.
it.
Yeah.
But I remember that she's counseling him and like doesn't really know what to say. And at one point, she's like read in a book that it's appropriate to pat them on the shoulder to show emotional comforting. And she just kind of awkwardly pats him. I'm like, that is so me. Like I have no idea how to physically interact with people.
Wait, and she's the therapist?
Yeah, she's the therapist.
Oh, God.
She's like, I read this in a book. It's supposed to help the bonding or something.
They're there.
They're there.
I think Sheldon does that at one point.
They're there.
Oh, yeah. Not to get ahead or spoil, but there's some really great Sheldon moments in the future.
So there might be some more coming up for me, but turning around and be like, do you want to talk about it? Like, I can see myself questioning that, like, this might be something they want to talk about. Should I question or what? But he's like, man, I'm on fire. They're there.
Yeah.
And his advice is pretty solid that Leonard's failure is with Penny predates the machine, so the machine really doesn't have anything to do with it. As if that makes everything better. Yeah.
And then Sheldon, I'm very like Sheldon in this moment, how I constantly relate reality to TV. Because I can't make sense of reality without relating it to TV.
Yeah. Connecting it to some story or device, plot line that I understood from seeing or, for me reading too, and playing video games as well, that I can relate, oh, this happened to a movie or a character. I can understand what's happening. And he starts relating it to movies like Back to the Future, right?
Yep.
It's like the time machines are, he doesn't say chick magnets, but he's basically saying it. It's like, think of Marty. He goes back in time and makes out with his attractive mom.
Yeah. Rod Taylor from the movie Time Machine gets the girl.
Yeah. I agree with him
time
there
travel
that
is sexy.
Marty's mom is attractive in the past. I always had a little thing for her when I watched that.
Oh man, watch horrible movie, but she's in it. What's her name? Leah Thompson?
Yeah.
Howard the Duck.
I haven't seen that in so long.
Horrible movie, but she looks fantastic in that movie.
That's why we watch Howard the Duck.
Only a reason. Otherwise, fucking terrible.
Remember, doesn't a guy turn like into a giant space monster at the end or something?
Yep.
Yeah, kind of freaked me out.
Howard's in the beginning. Howard's looking at Play Duck or something like that. It's like a duck porno.
Duck porno.
Like, oh my god, what? How much coke was everyone doing in the 80s?
All of it, Rob.
Mm-hmm. Just a mountain of coke with like Scarface, and you just bury your face in it.
Ducks, space ducks.
Duck porn.
Duck porn. Yes. So we get a flashback, and I was kind of confused here because I thought maybe this was going to be a like sliding doors type thing, or a potential look at what happened, like two different versions of things going on, like what would happen if he let her go out or if the time machine didn't come up. But it's very clearly becomes it's a daydream, and that he wishes his reaction would be to rip down the elevator door and swing on the cables like Tarzan and go down the elevator well with her on his arm, kissing all along the way, right?
I do stuff like this a lot too. Whenever I make a mistake or I think back of what I could have done differently, and I spend a little too much time on that, which I'm really trying to not. I'm trying to look at that as like a corrective action. Like, don't dwell on it, and it's like a wish it would happen. Treat that as a learning opportunity.
It's I'm pretty sure that's like a, what is it? Can be a sign of anxiety or OCD to some extent.
Oh, I definitely have that.
Yeah, I do too. As talking to somebody, I'm like, I think I might have OCD and anxiety, and they're like, No, Ryan, you do. It's like it's not thinking. It's like
We don't think it. We know.
you should know this by now, Ryan. It's clear to everybody but you. But yeah, I know what you mean. That to think back, and I don't necessarily get unrealistic about jumping into elevators, but like maybe if I had said this, or if I had said it in a different way, or if I would have paused, maybe it wouldn't have been offensive, or I could have done this or that, and things would have gone better. Instead, I replay. I'm like, man, I look like a total fool, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's better to look towards the future and see it as a learning process and just move on and do better next time, right?
Yep.
And then he finally wakes up, comes back to reality, and Sheldon's like, it's my turn. It's like 2 a.m. It's my turn.
Yeah, I know. I know. It's like, man, they have a very detailed schedule.
Right? Oh, we know that from like the first episodes where he Sheldon says, I get up at like 7 a.m. I go to the bathroom.
6:30, yeah, or 6:25. It was very specific.
Yeah. So yeah, they're very on the dot.
Yep.
And another call back to episode 1. The next morning, Leonard's packing up all this stuff, and he said, I'm done. I'm going to sell this. I'm done being a kid. And Sheldon says, if you need money, you can always sell blood or semen, which is how the show starts off, right? They're going to sell semen.
Yep.
They don't actually go through with it, but yeah.
Well, I did a little bit of research on this.
Oh.
Not the semen part. If you're interested in the semen part, you should check out our very first episode where we where we had our intro and we talked about the pilot episode. So if you just joined us for the first time, feel free, where we talk about semen.
Semen. All semen all the time. And give it a 5-star review, please.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
So, can you sell blood? I always thought it was more of a donation thing. So
Yeah.
it kind of just got me into like, wait, can you sell blood? That's kind of black markety. But
just Ziploc bags of blood. Anybody want my blood?
Well, I spiraled down quite the rabbit hole in this one. I found this on WUSA.com and ICSID.org. So apparently, the Red Cross does sell the donated blood to hospitals. It's not just a straight up donation. It's kind of a mind blown thing. It's like, what? They're selling it to hospitals? And on average, it goes for $312 per pint.
Whoa.
So before you yell at the Red Cross, this is why. So this is to cover all the costs of their operations. And that price per pint doesn't even cover 100% of it. Apparently, it only covers about 98.7%. So all that is to kind of cover all the costs of like hiring the people, doing like the little checks for diseases and everything like that.
You know, that makes sense. I mean, it has to be
Yeah.
official and medical supplied, top tier equipment, because nobody's going to donate blood if it's like rusty needles poking you.
Yeah. And apparently you can skip this and earn money on your own. You can sell blood straight to blood banks or some sort of private center. But depending on the amount of plasma you supply, you usually only get about $20 to $50 per pint. So what is the plasma? What is the thing that they're actually looking for? The plasma in blood is the liquid component of your blood that contributes to 55% of your blood's total volume. It's necessary to help your body recover from injury, distribute nutrients, remove waste, and prevent infection while moving through your circulatory system. It's actually a yellow straw-like color, but it's the red blood cells that are the dominant color, and that's why it's red.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's pretty much the most important part of the blood that they're looking for, and it depends how much you produce and what good quality you have. You could earn $20 to $50 per pint. You're better off doing semen. It's more pleasurable too. But blood can save lives. So as many as 3 lives can be saved per 1 pint of blood.
Really? Do they actually
According
divide
to
it
that
up,
site.
or is it like, how would you divide up a pint of blood? Like, just move the bag to somebody else?
Maybe it doesn't. Maybe not everybody requires the same amount. I
Oh,
don't really. How many pints of blood are in the human body?
that's a good question too. How many pints in a gallon in blood?
Oh, according to kidshealth.org.
I got blood.co.uk is 10 pints on
Yeah, I
average.
found 10 pints. So, I guess when you're in like an accident, God, how much blood do you lose? Probably more than a pint. Yeah, how would they divide up the pint?
Now that's a question. I was going to add too that I've heard that with plasma, what is it? Coconut water can be used in emergency as a substitute for blood plasma.
Really? Like you put coconut water through your veins?
Apparently it works like plasma. Like,
Interesting.
I'm guessing there's a reason that they need actual human blood, but yeah, I'm looking it up now. That I'm double checking this so nobody goes out and does this, but it was part of a pub trivia one time. So there's an element of truth to that. But I don't think it can be used like directly as plasma, but it shares some similarities. I don't know. I'd have to look more into that.
Well, nobody try that at home.
Yeah, definitely. Probably shouldn't be putting in your own plasma yourself at home, anyways. But
Don't even try to do a blood transfusion on your own.
yeah.
This is your disclaimer right now.
Disclaimer: we don't have
Yeah.
PhDs. We don't recommend
Yeah.
this. But
All right. So that's what I got on selling blood.
and that makes
So
sense
back to
because
yeah. Oh, sorry.
I've heard people saying sell plasma, but basically when you are donating blood, selling blood, it's because of the plasma that they need, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
It's the restorative property in the blood.
It's the fountain of youth. We need to get
So I
some for
want your
ourselves. I
blood.
want your Watson, come here.
Watson.
So Raj and Howard enter, and they start a bid on. Well, first of all, they're kind of confused why Leonard's selling all the stuff, but they start bidding on his things, including the time machine, his share of the time machine. And I love that Howard gets on the phone with his mom to see how much was it, bar mitzvah money.
Yep. His bar mitzvah bonds.
Bar mitzvah bonds and like 2 trees in Israel, right?
Yeah.
And Howard's like, you can't get rid of this. This is where the term comes from. Nerdvana. You've made Nerdvana.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And Sheldon jumps in the way. As selfish as Sheldon can be, he is trying to get Leonard to stop. And I think partially he wants to buy some of the stuff, but at the same time, he's like, this is a mistake. Don't do this.
He wants it.
Yeah.
All right. So here's around the time where I did lots of values on a lot of things. So it's a long list. It's a different categories. So how do you want to do this? Do you want to just go through like the rest of the episode and then we'll circle back and I go through it, or
we can do that. Yeah. I just did a little bit of research on the one particular Geordie figure.
Okay, yeah, I did so much
more. Do you want to share the Geordie stuff, and then we can come back to... All right.
Yeah, okay.
And let me know if this is what you found on Geordie, but I found that... a couple things. One, technically, the show got something wrong. According to express.co.uk, fans of Big Bang Theory noticed that the character Geordie in the packaging is wearing a uniform that he only ever wears in the movies. And the figure is supposed to be the television show. So right off the bat, something's not quite right with this. Small details adding up. But it's supposed to be a rare production error where Geordie does not have his visor on, right? And from what I could see, I couldn't find any actual production errors in that regard, but I did find a variant of the figure, one where the visor could come off. And that one goes for, I saw it for about $24 on eBay. Um, However, I did also see another eBay with a signed package by the man who plays Geordi, reading Rainbow Gentleman.
Mr. LeVar Burton.
Yes. Where technically it's the Geordi action figure with the removable visor, but it's in the wrong package. It's in a Jean-Luc Picard package. And so I don't know how that would have happened, but it's clear from the pictures Geordi is in the package, and then on the left it says Jean-Luc Picard action figure. And like, wow, something went horribly wrong. Or maybe somebody just glued the package back together and pretended.
Well, I do have when I start going over my list of values of things, I found something similar to that
Similar.
too in a different category.
All right. But I was getting for this one, did I say it? $105.
No, you didn't, but yeah,
Yeah.
I felt like I couldn't find that exact one. I was looking for the exact one that they were talking about,
Yeah.
and like what you were saying before, I found articles where a lot of the fans did notice this error in writing when they were rewatching, and they were making a lot of comments on it. But in all the articles that I read, it turns out that the fans were wrong, though.
Oh,
That actually, like the writers actually did have it right. Like
interesting.
whatever the issue was that everyone was calling out, they're like, nah, it's actually not right.
The color of the shirt, right? The
Or
uniform, something like
something,
that.
yeah. I
Interesting.
didn't really understand it because I didn't even know who this character really was. I knew once I found out it was LeVar Burton,
Yeah.
but I know nothing about his character because, again, not a big Star Trek fan.
I was just
Maybe I'll
thinking
get
the
into
visor
it.
because I was always so curious what that visor was.
What is it? Is it
I
just how he sees?
Yeah, I think he's blind, and so it allows him to see.
Oh, so he's not like a robot?
Nope, he's not like
So,
Data, right? Data's the robot.
yeah.
He's the one who
Sorry,
looks like kind of like
everyone.
a zombie.
Not a fan.
Dun,
Ask
dun.
me about Star Wars and I'll know.
Actually, Rob,
But
Geordi is just a Cyclops wannabe. It's a
oh,
visor that shoots lasers.
it actually opens up portals to a different dimension.
Dun dun dun. Star Trek, a lot of cool things you didn't know about.
But yeah, I couldn't find the actual value of that specific one. But I started looking at Geordie figures just in general,
Yeah,
and they don't go for very. I mean, in the grand scheme of all things, it's a lot of money for just a little figure.
yeah,
But when you look at like other things, like the most expensive one that I found was $150. But that was like it wasn't even part of like the original. It was like some like random generation of toys collection.
yeah.
So I didn't even know, but yeah, it didn't go for that much.
Weird. Yeah, when you want a toy though, $25 can make it or break it.
Yeah, things are getting really expensive
Right.
now.
Again, Beast Wars. Looking at Walmart at the Beast Wars, and like the smaller figures are going for like $40-$50. I'm like, the
What?
mid-sized ones, yeah, and then like the smaller ones are like $20-$25. I'm like, these are like $4.99 when I was a kid.
God, inflation's a mother, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Wow. I guess toy makers have to eat, but still.
Yeah.
All right, so do you want to come back to that data after we get through, because we're getting close to the end?
Okay, well, I guess now is a better time than any. So let me just scroll back
Sure.
up. So all him like so I got the thinking when everyone started doing the bidding war for all this stuff.
Yeah.
It got me wondering what are the values of a lot of these items. A lot of the items that they're talking about and a lot of like items that are out now. Because again, just like last episode where were we talking about this last episode where there are certain things that the guys do now that what may have not been popular back in 2008 is very popular now. So if they invested in it back then, I think it was the video game stuff.
Mm.
It was the Halo talk and video game competitions that we talked about. Like people like they're used as this catalyst for mockery that they're into these things, that they're
Yeah.
into video games, that they're into toys and everything like that. But if they actually did embrace it, then they could be millionaires right now.
Uh-huh.
So it got me thinking about how much these toys are really worth.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know about like how much do these toys sell for? How much are people bidding on them? So I found this list of the highest toys sold. So I found this on goodhousekeeping.com. And I tried to stick with like toys and action figures. I tried to steer clear of like games, like board games and stuff like that.
I was gonna say video
Because
games, like you get like beta copies of like old Nintendo games, but
yeah, I
stay
tried
away
to
from
avoid
that.
that stuff. I tried to stick with like because they were more focusing on actual toys, like actual tangible, like
Yeah.
physical things. So I tried to stick with that. This was a list on goodhousekeeping.com. Skipped like collections of things and I went with singular items.
Hmm.
So there was an action figure of Luke Skywalker in 1978. It was sold for or valued at $25,000. And a whole collection of that series went for over $500,000.
Wow.
Don't know if this counts as a toy, but there was an astronaut B Pez dispenser. A Pez dispenser, a little candy.
Yeah.
$32,000.
And it was an astronaut one?
It's called Astronaut B. I didn't know what it was. Should we look it up right now?
Yeah, I want to see a picture of this candy dispenser. That's terrifying.
Yeah, it's just like it's basically the head of an astronaut wearing its helmet.
Yeah, he looks like
It's
he's in
actually pretty
stasis.
terrifying.
Yeah. It's like a yellow visor and he looks dead.
Yeah. Ooh.
Wow.
Then there was the Fisher Price pushcart Pete, $8,000. A first edition Barbie, $8,000. A Peanut Royal Blue Elephant Beanie Baby, $5,000. But that is inaccurate because I will get into Beanie Babies when the time comes. And this goes into the mislabeled thing, just like what you said about how the Star Trek action figure was mislabeled as somebody else.
Yeah.
There was a mislabeled DC action figure. So it was Wonder Woman labeled as Batman is worth $2,000.
Uh,
So then it got me wondering about what the most expensive stuff is. So that's just things that people bid on that were actually documented. So I found a website called rarest.org where I found the most expensive figurines. But then again, it's kind of a little bit of a cop out because these items were made to be expensive.
oh.
So they were made with like diamonds and stuff like that, made with gold. So I'll try to breeze through this one since it doesn't really fit necessarily into the category that the guys are doing, but I find it interesting.
Yeah.
So, number 5, the Szymanski soccer ball. Only one in existence, valued at $2.5 million. It was created in celebration of the 2010 FIFA World Cup. South African jeweler Yair Szymanski made a diamond-encrusted soccer ball studded with 6,620 white and 2,640 black round brilliant cut South African diamonds. So it's a diamond-encrusted soccer ball.
That's kind of disgusting.
It really is. Especially when you, like, not to get political, but if you think about, like, blood diamonds and stuff like that,
Yeah.
it's like... But, number 4.
Number 4.
Madame Alexander Eloise. What is that? There are 5 in existence, and they're worth $5 million each. So that is a little figurine of a little girl in a fur coat and hat with a dog. It's expensive because each doll is made with Swarovski crystals, Catherine Bauman accessories, Oscar de la Renta fur, and Christian Dior clothes. Again, a little disgusting.
Yeah. Dang.
Number three, and that was 5 and 4. Number three, Le Oscillaire, which is French for the bird trainer. There is one in existence, and it is worth $6.25 million. It is a doll, but not just any doll. It looks like a boy wearing a Shakespearean-style clothes holding a flute. It's a self-operation machine with 2,340 polished steel parts. It took 12 people and 15 hours to make.
What's it do?
I guess it moves around a little bit. It's made with so many like little mechanical parts that it moves around.
So like the Annabelle doll?
It flips upside down.
Like, ah!
Number two, the gold Lamborghini Aventador model car. There is one in existence. It is worth $7.5 million. And it was made solely to be the most expensive model car. Don't know what's in it. Diamonds, gold, unicorn hair. I don't really know. And the most expensive toy or figurine, whatever category you want to call this, it is the Astolet dollhouse. There is one in existence. It is worth $8.5 million. It took 13 years to make. There are 29 rooms and 10,000 separate interior pieces. So it's a very large dollhouse.
It's like bigger than some apartments in New York.
Oh my god. But those are the most expensive figurines in the world.
That's nuts. Like you said, they were made intentionally to
be the most expensive things.
Yeah.
Like they were definitely made for a very niche audience.
Yeah. Rich people who have way too much money.
Yeah. All right. So then moving on into like the auction that the guys were going through for Leonard's stuff. They were going back and forth with the time machine. So then it got me wondering about all the other things that they were throwing in. I'll give you $300 plus my Millennium Falcon. And then, things like that. So they talked about a 1979 Mattel Millennium Falcon with real light speed sound effects. I couldn't find the exact one, but I found a lot of different Millennium Falcons from that era, 1978, 1979. And depending on what it was, they range in value between $300 and $5,000.
Whoa.
So not sure which one Raj had. They threw in a Darth Vader voice changer. And the most expensive one that I found was a vintage Kenner version, which is on eBay starting at $500. Raj calls dibs on a Golden Flash, or was it Howard? One of them had dibs on the Golden Age Flash. So I paused it and tried to do screenshots to like really find the packaging since they kind of showed it.
Yeah, very quickly.
And it's an orange packaging with a number 1 on it, so that's what I was trying to find. Couldn't find it, but I did find these figurines outside of their box.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, sorry, I couldn't find the actual Flash one. I found the other ones in that set because he said that he needed that Flash to complete his Justice Society of America collection.
Yeah.
Which consists of Starman, Golden Age Flash, Golden Age Green Lantern, and Sandman. And I found that version of Starman only going for $69.46. So then I did find just a regular Flash figurine that was called the Golden Age Flash.
Yeah.
It was going on eBay for $175.
So we're looking at a couple $100 for it being in the package in that version.
Yeah. And then just another side thing has nothing to do, well, kind of to do with values. It's the currency. Raj said that he would throw in 1,000 rupees.
Yes.
So I looked at the exchange rate.
What's the exchange rate? No.
$1 is to 0.012. So Raj's 1,000 rupees is only worth 12.13 in dollars.
But it sounds so fancy.
So then to go forward with the next list that I have, we have to talk about Penny entering. Penny enters the scene, and she hears the commotion.
Yeah, and she seems like she's in a better mood, right? A little bit because,
She
well,
must have thought about her actions and was very remorseful.
yeah, and finds out what's going on, but and she does apologize, but Sheldon's the one who calls her out on it, and this is actually my favorite part for Sheldon in the episode, and he gets another point, or I get another point being like Sheldon, because he calls Penny out on her hypocrisy.
Yep.
And like you said, or like we were talking about before that, everybody has their thing, and she collects Care Bears, My Little Ponies, and has Hello Kitty pajamas on.
Hello, Kitty.
Hello, Kitty. Hello, Kitty.
Yeah, so I did the most expensive and valuable Beanie Babies. Since he called out Beanie Babies too. And I remember when this was such a huge thing. We were like, God, what were we, like middle school, high school when this rage started?
Yeah, I think it was about late middle school.
All right, so should I dive into that?
Go for it. I want to hear Beanie Baby this.
Okay, so Beanie Babies, for anybody who doesn't really know, are just these little stuffed animals, but like they're not really stuffed. There's like beans inside of them, right? I never actually. I think I owned like one of the cheap ones.
Rattlesnake eggs.
Yeah, snake eggs. Yeah. But I still don't understand it. I still don't get why it's so valuable. They're just little stuffed animals,
Little stuffed
essentially.
dolls, yeah.
But I guess they are unique that they have a whole collection of them. There are some fun ones, but these are the most expensive ones. So top five. Number 5, Piccadilly Attic, worth $125,000. This is a bear dressed up as a clown. He's wearing blue and green. He's wearing a blue and green jester outfit, or her. Yeah. Don't know what they are.
It's a Beanie Baby. They have no gender.
So they are wearing this. Number 4, Bubbles, valued at $129,000. This is a yellow fish with black stripes. It's valuable because it's due to production errors. So there are certain versions of it that have the wrong color mouth threads or incorrect tush tags. So that's the only reason why that's valuable.
And I think
it's funny how people... Oh, sorry.
Something to be said, too, that with the value of Beanie Babies, like, the tag needs to be perfect, too. And you can get, like, little plastic covers to keep the tags from being wrinkled or crumpled, right? Because they have, like, little TY cardboard tags on them.
Yeah, I think so. Oh, yeah. And you can't take off that tag.
Yeah, if you cut that off, you lose everything.
Yeah. It's crazy how, like, things have value because of, like, a specific thing, or, like, they have something on it to legitimize it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's valuable. Or valueless.
All
right, number 3. The 15-inch Peace Bear and 9-inch Peace Bear Ringo and Bones set. So this is kind of a little cop-out because it's a set. It's worth $159,000. So it's 2 tie-dye bears with 2 dogs. And singularly, each Peace Bear, goes for $5,000. So it's almost like, well, in the grand scheme of all things of Beanie Babies, they're worth nothing on their own. But with their powers combined... Number 2. Princess the Bear, worth $500,000. It is a purple bear with a white rose on the heart
Princess
in memory
Diana.
of Princess Diana. Yep.
I remember this one.
And number 1, Large Wallace and His Squad. So it's another collection. So it's worth $600,000. The Large Wallace is a large teal bear with a red scarf. And it also comes, his squad is 2 mini versions of himself, named Cashew and Huggy.
That's like, are they an army squad? Like a death squad?
Nope, just a group. It's kind of like how it's like Girl Squad.
Oh, I was thinking it was like
squad.
A secret service of TY bears. They come in like,
it's my guy squad. We're going bar hopping with my squad.
My squad, my mini me's.
Yeah, Large Wallace and his squad. Yeah, so Beanie Babies are still worth a lot.
Wow.
Even now, I don't know if they're still producing them, but yeah.
And I remember that they would produce different versions of the same thing. So you can get like a Princess Diana bear, but if it doesn't have like the exact specific qualities, it's not worth as much. But the unknowing eye, like they look identical, but they'll have like slight differences.
Yeah, it's like a knockoff purse.
Exactly. The rattlesnake eggs aren't actually alive anymore.
All right. Well, that's all I had on values.
Cool. Good stuff. Good stuff. So they says hello, Kitty, and then Penny finally does apologize, and mentions that things you like make you who you are, and that's when Howard chimes in. Well, I must be large breasts. Right, Howard.
Big ol' eye roll on that
one. And yeah, I kind of skipped notes, but basically Leonard's like, no, I still want to get rid of it because he's trying to grow up, right? If he is what he loves and he wants to love things that make him more mature. But this is when a guy comes over and offers to help Penny change and runs into her room with her.
Damn you, Mike. Why did you show up?
I kind of love this because it's such a great, small, quick character change that an action happens and Leonard responds by realizing the error of his way, saying like, yeah, no matter who I am, I'm never going to be that guy, and I don't want to be. I can't be. And so I might as well do what I like and live with it.
Yeah. It's just that he's trying to change himself to appeal to Penny.
Yeah.
When all he needs to, like, as the audience, you know that all he has to do is be himself.
Yeah. And even
but
if
we've all been there where you like someone and you want to change for that person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you have to change yourself too much, then it might not be worth it anyways, because then you're not going to be happy with yourself.
Yeah.
So he runs back in with all this stuff, and we get to the closing credits, and Sheldon is in the time machine in a jungle somewhere, and he has it set to April 28th, 802,701, and April 28th is the air date, right? So
yep.
They're right on with the date it's supposed to be.
Great planning.
Great planning. It worked out. Well, it's not April for us, but...
Well, no, I guess like they looked ahead because I'm sure they recorded this or filmed this like months ahead.
Yeah.
And they knew that they were going to like launch on this date. So like, okay, let's just set it for that date.
Maybe they CGI'd it.
Oh,
I don't think so, but who knows? And then Morlock's Russian. He's like, I did it. But Morlocks come in and start eating him. And he wakes up and he's in the time machine. And Leonard comes in and Sheldon says, we have to get rid of this. He's like, that's great because I hired some movers. And the movers come in and they are Morlocks as well. And they come and eat Sheldon. Morlocks. And it ends with him waking up screaming for Leonard in his bed.
Where we have to get rid of the time machine.
Get rid of it. Morlocks.
And that's it.
That's the end of it.
We did it. The end. Great episode.
I like that one.
This episode was such a fast watch. It was so good.
It really was. It was a quick one. And like I said, some cool character development changes, seeing some more sides of Sheldon, and a little bit more with the Penny Leonard relationship, but not over the head. So more about, what makes these friends and who they are.
Yep. And I really like this one because it wasn't overly sciencey stuff.
Yeah.
I definitely like this kind of stuff.
A little bit slower pace than question after question, like the last one with the trivia.
Yeah, and like the science stuff just takes so long to research, and like even when I do research, I feel like I don't really fully understand it. So I feel like I'm not really giving the audience what it deserves.
Yeah, I don't have
Whereas
any.
This stuff was a lot more fun.
What the fuck comments in my notes where I just gave up.
There's all these scratches and giant question marks. Cry face emoji.
Just eat me now, Morlocks. I give up.
So, all right. What's our tally?
Oh, tally.
I'll count up the IQ points and you count up your Sheldon points.
Things have gone. 19 me being like Sheldon and 16 me not being like Sheldon. So
wait, so you're not like Sheldon?
No, I am like Sheldon right now.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, 16 not like and 19 like. This episode boosted him up. We were like neck and neck, and now we are. He had some funny comments and some. It's when he starts acting more kinder that I feel like I can see myself in him quite a bit more.
Well, for IQ points, if I counted right, we have 12 full IQ points and 2 partial.
Nice.
This was a very, very content-filled episode.
It didn't, like you said, it went by fast, so it didn't seem like it, but there were things like when you picked them up, like, yeah, I could talk about this, I could look into it.
Yeah.
When I started looking into the phone calls, I was like, wow, this is, it seemed like a side note, but I found a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with this episode. Yeah. I think the next one is going to be really good, too. Oh, yeah. This is a really good one.
It's a good one?
The pork chop indeterminate... Wait, it's having trouble saying that word. Indeterminacy. The pork chop indeterminacy. I have to say indeterminate. Nancy.
Nancy.
Did you look ahead on this one?
I have not. It started playing like a second, but I turned it off, so...
Okay. Well, we got some time to watch it.
Yeah, we're taking a break for...
Well, we're taking a break amongst ourselves, but there shouldn't be any lapse in the actual episodes. So my kid is coming next week. So next time we record, well, honestly, by the time that this episode launches, I'll already have my kid. It's gonna be wild, but that's why we wanted to get ahead on recording this, because I knew I was gonna take some time to adjust. So Ryan, thanks again for finding the time to squeeze in this episode.
I'll always squeeze you in, Rob.
Whoa. Well, hello now.
Come here, Watson. I've got some squeezing.
Well, this should air on the 6th, I believe. Yeah, so this will air after Halloween, and then you and I are going to meet. Yeah, so I won't see you for... Well, I'll shoot you messages. I'll be sending you some pics of the kid.
Yeah, I'm going to be checking in, so...
Yeah. But for you, the audience, we wanted to make sure that there was no lapse in episodes.
The podcast must be delivered.
Yes, this is all for you.
It's all for you.
Yeah, as my wife is downstairs just stewing. What's he doing up there? Having fun while I'm pregnant and miserable.
Him and his podcast
almost there, baby.
audience.
We're almost there. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again. Remember to please leave a review on Apple. We're also on Spotify and Stitcher. Remember to follow us on Instagram at Theoretical Nonsense Pod, and shoot us an email. we're at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com. It's in the show notes, so send us a comment, send us your favorite moment, send us a superlative, favorite actor, favorite story arc, favorite guest actor, whatever you want. Just say hi.
Just say
send an
hello.
email saying
Have a good
hi.
day.
Yep. And we will see you all next time when we talk about Season 1, Episode 15, The Pork Chop Indeterminacy. Thanks for listening.
See you later.
This was Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD necessary. Our intro and outro music is by Al Scroll, and our logo is by John Kim. Thanks for listening.